right, everybody. First and foremost, I want to welcome you to Room for Seconds. This is my first ever podcast, and it is a way that I am giving back to this great industry. It is a way for me to share stories of incredible people in all areas of the industries, from any generation of business to restaurants to sports to other personalities. We will be sitting here and spending a lot of time talking about culture and about the importance of people and how to build up this incredible generation so they can go on and do incredible things down the line. I was very, very lucky to have some of the greatest mentors of the world and anyone could ever ask for teach me how to get and how to work and how to be just culturally specific and culturally building where my team is always working as one. And I felt that one of the things that they always told me was to give back and to give back to them and to give back once I got to a point. So this entire thing is purely about helping others. And we'll spotlight every avenue from cooks to dishwashers to people that have been doing it for 20 years and why they have. You'll follow us into restaurants. You'll follow us when we do stupid things. You'll hear about stories where we fail. But hopefully by the time that it's all said and done, that you learn something about being a part of a team and putting a culture in place where you guys continue to work and that you don't give up. And that is what we want to accomplish with this. So I'm very, very honored to have my first guest, which is Justin Egan, who was one of the co-founders of Wing It On, which is a brand that, full disclosure, that Craveworthy Brands has acquired as of this past January. But the story of what they did and how they did it with no money and fighting every day is something that should empower us to be better and empower us that you can do anything that you accomplish and want to accomplish in life. So, Justin, how are you?
I am fantastic. Being here today is definitely a lifelong goal of mine. A lot of times people, they have this vision that they want to be like thought leaders and they can't wait to get on the podcast and all that. And, I came to this realization where I'm like, you know what, I'm better suited as an action leader than a thought leader. So, but it's good every now and then to stretch my muscles and get used to, speaking and telling the story, right? That's what it's all about.
Story is the most important thing. It's what people care about. So you and Matt obviously have an incredible story and how you founded Wing It On, how you built it up, and then more importantly, how you got other people interested to be your partner. So why don't you give us a little quick rundown on that, and then we're going to dig into some of the struggles that you had.
Yeah, absolutely. Wing It On is an amazing concept that we started back in 2011. And, back then it was really just going to be my partner, Matt's wing shop, his one shop that he was going to just do what he loved to do and make it great. And he never expected it to grow as fast as it did, which is, the story that everyone expects to hear, but there's tons of twists and turns along the way. I remember being, bright-eyed and full of hope about how this brand was going to get going. We were sitting in a coffee shop thinking of just the names of the thing. He brought me in just to do like the advertising and the marketing for the brand. And he was giving me his business pitch and I was zoning out on my phone and he thought I was ignoring him. And he's like, "Did you hear anything I just said about this amazing business plan that's going to make us a bunch of money?" And I'm like, yeah. So I was on GoDaddy.com trying to find domain names of brands that I thought could scale. So Wing It On was available. And I just said, "Hold on, Wing It On." And he's like, "Wing It On, let's do it. It's great." So we locked it in and it was off to the races since then.
What's amazing about that is that I spend so much time when we develop brand names that it transitions and, thought leaders and having other people's opinions and all that. And then you guys just got it like that. And The name is so badass and fits. I mean, again, it was like a story too good to be true.
Yeah. So what I love about Wing It On, what I was able to bring, I think, so much energy to it, even at an early stage, is because it's something that came from me. It was something that we created ourselves and we didn't have to, it's like the opposite of corporate America. You go to corporate America every day to punch a card and do your job and figure out how to keep your bosses happy. But in this space, I was actually like a creator, a master of my domain, so to speak. And I think that gave me such a special bond with this brand that it's always going to be part of me. But we were able to do some amazing things like that because we didn't have any of those restraints. We could be creative.
So when you guys started, you guys were all hats. Every hat in the company had to be you all. What about the struggles when you guys couldn't pay bills or didn't know how you were going to survive from week in to week out? Because everyone gets into this business and thinks it's going to be a home run and that you're going to have more money than what you need to do, than what you know how to operate. And what the reality is that it's hard.
Very hard.
And nobody ever talks about how you got through those type of things.
No, I will first and foremost give amazing props to Matt and Sarah, who, from a financial perspective, was able to just keep a amazing pulse on the cash flow and make sure that our bare minimum requirements were taken care of, and that, you know, we didn't have two nickels to rub together, really afford a lot of stuff or really, you know, invest big in a lot of the things that we wanted to do. But there were plenty of times where we had to put our tail between our legs and go back to partners and vendors and tell them, I'm sorry, we can't continue doing this because, you know, we're in full on austerity measures, and that sucks, you know, especially if you're someone who has vision and then you know that these partners are adding value and going to help catapult you to that next level that you always dreamed you'd get to find yourself having to go up against a brick wall and say, shit, not today. But you never lose sight of the vision, and you know that somehow, some way, you will get to where you want to. Could be today, could be tomorrow, could be a year from now. Just can't give up.
I mean, the struggles of not making payroll or the struggles of not being able to pay vendors every week. I mean, the sleepless nights that founders go through is something that's just remarkable about the endurance of those that survive, because everyone and nobody can say that they didn't go through it. You know, they may hide it, they may sugarcoat it, they may make it sound like it's all, you know, roses and, you know, good times, but it never is. Very rarely do you open up a restaurant or open up any business and not have to have sleepless nights. And those are the things and the stories that everybody forgets about. And why, you know, the true entrepreneurs of the world are so dynamic and have that strong personality, because it takes so few actually make it. So when you guys were first dealing with franchisees and you had your first run in, because obviously you have one corporate store, and that sort of built everything off of it. But when you had that first sale, what attracted the franchisee to you all? What made it a proposition that they actually thought it was a good idea?
Well, the first franchisee was actually somebody that was close enough or friends with Matt, and he was able to, you know, share with him what he was doing and got him to agree that it was something he wanted to do. And it actually wasn't a bad deal for the guy. He opened up on Central Connecticut State University's campus, and it was actually an amazing store. So he had actually a good experience. It wasn't until we started going to franchisee number 2 or 3, where we were kind of like outside of our network and actually attracting people to come on in and invest, that we started to see how much of a grueling game this franchising is. It's not something that you could just say, hey, we're going to grow through franchising. We got our franchise applications. We got all the legal elements locked down. Now it's like you're nothing to nobody. You have to still prove yourself. You only have 2 people in your corporate team. How in the hell are you going to pull this off? You know? So I think that the people that got in our system early on who are no longer in our system is for a good reason. They maybe didn't fit with us at the point in time, or weren't the right franchisees to scale the business to where it needs to get to. You know, early on, you get people who have, you know, money to spend and just looking for opportunities. They're not really vested in it. They don't know how hard it's going to be to get involved with an emerging franchise, or so the relationship ends up fizzling out. The locations don't last. If you have franchisees who understand that it's going to be a struggle and are in it and will be there to back you up, and you can build a solid enough relationship with them, that's amazing. But even that's not going to get you to 500 units either. You know, you have to get to that point where you're at the tipping point. You have a great product, you have low cost of goods sold, you have a team of people helping with all the problems, putting out all the fires, right? And then you can start to see things coming into your favor. And then you still got to work 10 times harder. Because one thing I've always found, like, once you think you've made it, you've actually just unlocked another level that makes you have to work 10 times harder. And that's what franchising is like. It's like this stepping game that you just have to just keep navigating and just be relentless.
So you talked about franchisees that are no longer in the system, and obviously everybody has that, but what would you do differently today with those first couple that you sold to try to find better franchisees, or how were they not a cultural fit for you and the brand that you were trying to build?
Well, I mean, we were, two young guys with a great concept. We loved what we were doing. The idea that somebody was going to come in here and just do everything that we said was naive on our part, so the folks that got involved were folks that actually, maybe they were kind of like sharks in the water. We didn't even know it. They were going to try to maybe bastardize the brand a little bit, do things their way. So I think moving forward, you understand, like, just because somebody has money and has experience doesn't mean they're the right fit. You have to actually vet them a little bit further. Understand that, we don't know what we don't know. And, we need somebody that actually has the skill set, the know-how, the ability to be so almost like an investor in this with us and building it out. And we didn't do that. We kind of kept it where we were the franchisor, you were the franchisee. And when we got somebody that we felt was a good candidate, we would vet them a little further every time we got somebody new. But I didn't feel like we ever got to the point where we had world-class operators, knocking on our door to partner with us. It was still just anybody with money and a pulse. And, we got smarter about who we let in, but at the same time, it's still very challenging because, like we just talked about, you got payroll to meet, you got all these financial obligations. How are you going to say no to somebody who wants to give you their money to open a franchise?
It's the biggest issue with emerging brands is that you take money because you have to pay your bills and you hope that there'll be a good franchisee, even though your gut tells you one thing. You need to take it. And every emerging group I've ever been a part of or worked with has done that. But it's what you do. Not easy. So I learned a long time ago, and again, I get in trouble for saying stuff like this, but Jimmy always taught us that you have to drink the Kool-Aid. And a franchisee has to come in and you have to get them so pumped up and so excited about being in this with them that they have to drink what you're serving and they have to buy in. And basically you got to bleed the brand. And if you don't bleed the brand especially at those early stages, you can't set them up for the next store because they're not going to do everything. The first group of franchisees, that first 200, have to be so into not just the financial return, but being a part of something special. And that's why the great franchises and the great companies out there that have gone and done it have all done it because they built this culture and the foundation. And then it's everyone else wants to be a part of it. And that's what's always forgotten is that you got to get that first base. And people try to jump over that and make mistakes. And I mean, again, hey, Craveworthy is no different. We've turned down so many people because we want to find that right person for that right acquisition, that first target. And it's just something that you got to drive, and it's more important to choose wisely than take that paycheck. But I've got 26 years of doing it. I've learned that, when you're first started, you don't.
And I will say that the franchisees that we have still in our system are, a lot of them have been with us, and I will say that they are advocates for our brand, and I'm happy that we have them in our family. I'm excited to work with, the Craveworthy Brands team. And to your point, make sure you're focusing on the culture piece and making it so that this brand is not just something that you said, it's not a spreadsheet. It's a living, breathing thing that you want to be a part of and activate and grow and be a beacon in your territory for, an advocate for. We're getting there, and I feel more optimistic about that every day.
What do you think is the one thing that attracts your franchisees, those early ones, to you? Was it the food? Was it the idea that they could get in early? What dragged them along to choose Wing It On?
I think the name was badass. The brand passed a lot of the sniff tests, to say, okay, does it have the look and the feel of emerging? The food was amazing. And I think people go crazy for wings. There's only one huge wing competitor in the fast casual space, and that's Wingstop. Any other wing that you're a fan of, you're waiting in lines at taverns. You have to go eat at a restaurant, and that's not going to help you on game day. So I think that the demand for this product, the opportunity that people saw, and the systems that, my partner Matt built early on to make it manageable and doable is what brought people in. Plus, as an emerging brand, you're charging basement level prices to get in, I mean, it's just it's hard to say no when you feel like, yes, this could be something. It's only a $30,000 franchise fee, and I could build this thing out for, $200,000 in a second gen space. Sign me up.
So obviously the trophies behind you have something to do with why people were excited. What's all that about?
Yeah. So a lot of people are, a lot of wing nuts know that a good buffalo sauce is made with some very few simple yet tasty ingredients, which is, a real good quality hot sauce, real butter, and some blend of spices that give it the different heat levels. So we actually are beyond the moon thrilled to know that, like, our obsession over the perfect buffalo wing has paid off for us. When we brought our medium buffalo sauce to the mecca of wing competitions in Buffalo, New York, the National Buffalo Wing Festival, we enter into those blind taste tests. We've took home the first place trophy 2 years in a row for the best traditional medium buffalo sauce. And anybody who's a fan of wings knows, like, that's an homage to the original recipe, the medium buffalo. That's what wing nuts across the world use as their guide to, is that place serving wings that are worth my time.
And I'll be honest, that medium sauce is why I wanted to partner with you all. It was so damn good when we tried it. The sauces were incredible. And so I knew it was a brand that I wanted to be a part of.
Well, that's amazing to hear, because I think that speaks to, like, when you're focusing on your passions and the things that you love, good things happen to you. And you could boil down the Wing It On story to that.
Without a doubt. So we're going to take a second right now, and we want to talk about Ovation. Ovation is an absolute incredible platform for customer surveys, customer feedback. We are thrilled that they are a sponsor, but I want to tell you a little story about how important it is to be able to attract your customers and feedback and get involved with them day in and day out. So we actually had a Wing It On customer, a manager, respond to a wing complaint. Not a bad complaint, but a complaint, but the guy did not handle it properly. So as I'm scrolling, I'm looking through, because I read every complaint, and I go ahead and personally write a message back. This customer and this franchisee quickly learned how important we take everything, and how important we take the quality of the food, the quality of the service, the quality of our execution. But we would not have been able to have that interaction without a system like Ovation. So thank you, Ovation, for being an absolutely incredible partner. Thank you for allowing me to teach my franchisees the importance of good customer feedback. And more importantly, thank you for letting us continue to win our customers back day in and day out. So Justin, a few more questions if you got some time.
I do. I'm here for you.
So when you guys started to just look for exterior partners to help you guys grow, what were you looking for? Why were you looking for them?
The easiest way to put it is we needed a partner who had the resources that could help us grow, financial resources to contribute, but had the know-how to see around the corners that we couldn't see around. I mean, that's, we talked about knowing how important culture is and drinking the Kool-Aid. Like, we didn't know any of that stuff. We were like, but this business plan works, and, our branding is great. And, we have so much passion and so much energy. There's no number 2 in the wing spot. What's taking so long? And, to have a partner like Craveworthy Brands, who's like, listen, we'll help you grow because we know you have something that's going to be exceptional. Here's how you got to do it right. Like, that's what we needed. Somebody that could take us around, put their arm around us, right? And say, let's do this the right way. You're almost there. Make a few tweaks and fly.
Yeah. We made some tweaks.
Made
now
a
it's
few.
time to fly.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. So how is it when you now have partnered with somebody? How hard was it to let go of some of the things that were in the brand at the beginning? So, for example, you're the marketing guru of Wing and Eye. And one of the first things that we did when we sort of took over and became your partner was that we wanted to rebrand it a little bit and try to streamline that brand for where we think it should go. What's the feeling as a founder to have someone come in and tell you, hey, we need to make changes? Because that's hard.
Yeah. I know what your audience wants to hear is that was the hardest thing. I don't think it was the hardest thing for me ever. Like, I designed that logo. Like, you'd think I'd be personally attached to it. Yes, it has a place in my heart, but I know what amazing brands look like. And when I look at that logo, the old logo, I'm like, this is great. It got us to where we were, but it's just not. Yes, do it, design it, redesign it together in a collaboration, obviously, which was the right way to do it. But I thought that it was time. Honestly, it was time. So
I'm actually surprised by that.
it was time to go bolder. It was time to do it. Whatever was holding us back, I didn't want that to be a reason that it didn't let us go forward. So
and what was the response from the franchisees about the change, though?
It was mixed. Because I think when we presented the rebranding, we also presented new menu items, which comes with a whole host of questions, from an operator's perspective, with how much is all this going to cost me, and what's the labor inputs and all this kind of stuff. Some folks didn't like it, but I looked at the feedback across the spectrum, and I noticed that the positive feedback came from the folks that tended to be more optimistic and amenable to the suggestions that we had made in the past and how we built our brand so far. And then negative feedback came from the folks that, would typically have negative comments. So it was almost like you kind of know going into it what you're going to get. And the bottom line is that if you want to be successful and you want to see real change happen, you cannot continue doing the same things you're doing. So
that's hard for all of us to learn sometimes. Sometimes you got to rip the Band-Aid off and move on. And that's the hardest part of life sometimes.
Yes.
With everything, with locations, with people, with, who you partner with, change is hard. And sometimes that is something that you just got to do. The logo was what we thought gave us a reason to talk about and a reason to drive the fact that you guys have won awards and sort of be a little cocky son of a bitch compared to our competitors. And we definitely think that logo did that.
100%. Our messaging, our branding, it has evolved over time, and you could still see a ton of influence from the original branding in what it is now. Like Chicken Like a Champ was a great tagline. It just needed
freaking great tagline.
It just needed the other things around it to make it pop a little bit more. Let's do it. Let's make it pop. Let's give it what it deserves. Let's let it be what it deserves to be.
What's the biggest challenge you face today with the brand and, your new partnership, or just in general? What's your biggest challenge that you would tell people to watch out for?
The biggest challenge, I think, is the transition. The transition is tough, because when you're going into it, and this is for all emerging brands who have this opportunity. Yes, a lot of the problems that you have been facing will be solved. You don't know exactly what the timeline is going to be of those. So when you're telling franchisees, the tides are shifting, things are going to work out, we're going to get X, Y, and Z coming in to kind of help us solve these problems. We don't know when yet. So you're constantly going to be putting your foot in your mouth if you start telling them like, this is going to happen by this date, this is going to happen by that date, because there's no way to really pinpoint all that. You know, as a platform company, Craveworthy Brands has the team of people in place, but we also have a lot of brands that have to get prioritized. And, you know, you have to, one person can't do everything all the time. So I think just the challenge is, you know, figuring out how to work together, figuring out who's on the bus, who's doing what, and figuring out, you know, how to keep the relationships with your franchisees still intact during a transition when things are just a little in flux.
That's the hardest part. I mean, because it always takes time. Everything takes longer than you think it's going to. Everything takes longer than you think it's going to.
Which is why, you know, you are a person who I know likes to move lightning fast. And it's clear why. Because, you know, like it still needs to do the thing after I say to do it. And the longer you delay, the longer it ends up happening. So you have this mantra of just fast, freaky fast.
Yeah, a little bit. You know, again, the things I learned from that job, I'm forever thankful for. You know, and it runs through my DNA day in and day out, as much as I try not to at times. So I hear a rumor that you write some songs, and there's a song out on the internet of you singing about shoes.
Yes. I am a self-proclaimed sneaker freak. And what that means is I buy more shoes than my wife would like me to buy. But I think...
So you have more than her?
No. If you asked a real sneaker freak, they would probably open up a room with sneakers everywhere. That is not me. I like, you know, when I see a pair of Jordans that really catch my eye, like, I'm like, I got to get those, and I'll figure out a way to get them. But
okay. So what's the song about?
The song is called Sneaker Freak. And I wrote that song probably about 7 or 8 years ago, which was an ode to, you know, the mentality of a sneaker freak. Doesn't matter how much they're going to cost, you're going to get them. Doesn't matter how much they cost, you're going to wear them. Or some people might just preserve them in a airtight container and never put them in a glass case. Like, you just got to wear them ball out all day.
So I want the song as your ringtone when you call me.
Okay, I will send that to you.
But I laughed so hard when it was sent to me the one night. It was like the perfect pick me up. I'm listening to this, like, what?
What is this white bald man doing with auto-tune voice on his track? This is insane.
It was priceless. So
yeah, that's my my other hidden talent. I do like to write lyrics and record myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that means I just got to find more work for you to do.
There you go.
Well, Justin, thank you very, very much. We're about out of time. So again, I appreciate everything you do for us. I'm thrilled the fact that I can call you a coworker and a friend now. So
thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the opportunity. And I know that it means a lot to me to know that, you know, I'm a big believer in like building the life that you want to have for yourself. And I feel like sometimes people get lost in the details of what's owed to them, you know, and that to me is a waste of time. I just feel like if you just continue to do what you were meant to do on this planet, good things will happen to you. And that's where I feel like I've fell into here. So I'm very thankful.
Well, thank you. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Greg. Thank you for joining my first ever episode of Room for Seconds. We'll see you guys next week. Hey viewers, thanks again for supporting Room for Seconds. If you found this episode inspiring, interesting, or any bit informative, please hit that little subscribe button down at the bottom so you never miss an episode. In my 26 years in this amazing industry, I've been blessed with incredible mentorship. This show is my way of giving back. Follow me on LinkedIn. Search Gregg Majewski. On Twitter, @Gregg_Majewski. If you still have room for more, visit our website at media.craveworthybrands.com. You'll find more videos, shows, notes, blogs, resources, and an easy way to get in touch with the Craveworthy Brands team. I'm your host, Gregg Majewski. Thanks again for tuning in to Room for Seconds.